Let me provide some context. We have been in a relationship for almost 17 years. We've had 3 children together, and I've spent the last 2 years restoring our old house. Our financial situation is difficult, with no savings and a large amount of debt. She's the only woman I've ever been with, and before me she'd only had a few casual encounters, so we both had little experience when we met. She has been the most important person in my life, and we have faced many challenges together. I've always believed that we were one of the few couples who could weather any storm. Unfortunately, it appears that my assumptions were incorrect. With everything going on while we were fixing up the house and juggling our full-time jobs to make ends meet and ensure the kids' safety, we kind of lost ourselves. The financial difficulties and health issues only exacerbated our problems. My wife had been trying to lose weight for a long time, but no method seemed to work, and it had a negative impact on her self-esteem. We were both feeling down, but instead of communicating and comforting one another, we suffered silently. I found solace in computer games, which served as an escape from our problems. While she was constantly engrossed in her phone, things took a turn for the worse this spring and summer. She began spending more time with her friends and attending parties, leaving me at home with the children. I'm hoping that giving her some space to let off steam will improve her mood when she returns home. Unfortunately, that strategy did not work at all. I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that had crept into my gut. There were rumors that she had been seen kissing a guy at a dance in a nearby town. I confronted her about it, but she denied it, claiming that the guy had made an advance on her, but she pushed him away. I wasn't completely convinced, but I didn't want to put too much pressure on her because I wanted to show her that I trusted her. However, as the summer progressed, I noticed she became more guarded and secretive with her phone. By chance, on the night of August 22nd, I came across her Facebook password and decided to take a look. I'm hoping to find some information about that dance from earlier this summer. What I discovered was far worse than expected. I witnessed the undeniable truth. She had been having a sloppy, drunken makeout session with some guy until her friend intervened. But that is only the tip of the iceberg. I was able to access her Messenger and Skype accounts, and what I discovered next was mind-blowing. It turned out she had been having an online conversation with 2 foreign guys. Let's call them A and B for several months. It all started innocently enough on Instagram when this random dude A began sending her flattering messages. From there, they began chatting on Skype in early June. Surprisingly, after only a few weeks of conversation, she gave in and started sharing photos with him. Despite some initial resistance, the incident with the guy she kissed occurred. Later that month, she continued to communicate with Guy A until mid-August, when his true intentions were revealed. He turned out to be a scammer who used pictures from a stolen profile to deceive her. She had been foolish enough to share intimate photos of herself with him, and it appeared that she was madly in love with him. Meanwhile, she began talking to Guy B through Instagram. It didn't take long for their conversations to escalate into picture exchanges and explicit language. In both cases, they were fantasizing about visiting our country and meeting my wife in a hotel. Strangely, she never said anything negative about me, but rather treated me as if I were a mere background presence. If they asked, she would say that I treated her well, but she would also say how much she enjoyed talking to them and how they made her feel good. The worst part is yet to come. In one of her conversations with a female friend, I discovered even more disturbing details. They had attended a 2-day town festival in another nearby town in early July and had rented a room. Of course, I agreed to it and assumed it would be fine. I was aware that my wife's friend, who suffers from panic attacks, needed to stay overnight at the local hospital. However, what I wasn't aware of until that conversation was that she brought up a 41-year-old guy. Let's call him C from our hometown. This guy C was married with children but unhappy in his relationship. Apparently, my wife met him that night, and he approached her for a conversation before attempting to take things further. According to what my wife told her friend, she was able to stop him. She didn't say his name, but I had a strong suspicion who it could be, considering our small town. Furthermore, when I looked through my online phone records, I discovered a message sent to a number that matched the description of this guy. I began to fear the worst. I didn't tell my wife what I had discovered just yet because I was concerned about the potential impact on our children. So I put on a facade and waited until Saturday, August 24th, to confront her. I asked my mother to look after the kids. My wife is currently taking classes to advance her career, and when she returned home from class, I politely invited her to sit down with me. I then proceeded to tell her what I had learned. Our conversation was free of shouting and insults. It was just two sad individuals. One person is angry and hurt. She assured me that nothing had happened between her and C, and her online activities were simply an attempt to boost her self-esteem because she believed I had stopped loving her. She didn't point fingers at me or yell at me for snooping. Instead, she explained that she thought I had lost interest in her because she was not losing weight. When those men showered her with compliments, she admitted to being carried away by their attention. She did not mean to hurt me, but her actions were motivated by selfishness as she sought their approval. They even sent them revealing photos. She admitted that she had been cheating on me, though she didn't realize it at the time. She was engaging in those behaviors despite knowing they were wrong. I really wanted to trust her and give our marriage another chance. We decided to work on our relationship and seek counseling. Things seemed to improve over time. She has been showing me a lot more affection and care recently. Our bed life has been wonderful, and we're spending a lot more time together than we used to. Despite these positive changes, I couldn't shake the growing suspicion in my gut that she was hiding something important for me. Last week, during our second session with the marriage counselor, she finally admitted the truth. It was something I had suspected and feared, but desperately wished hadn't happened. She admitted to sleeping with C that night in July, despite claiming to feel remorse and shame afterwards. She continued to communicate with him via social media. She admitted to meeting up with him twice after that, but she assured me it was only for some kissing. Even more disheartening is that she attempted to contact him again just a few days after our confrontation in August when she admitted. My initial reaction was total shock. I did not curse or raise my voice. I did not harm her in any way. I felt strangely relieved that she had finally admitted what I had suspected, but at the same time, I felt completely humiliated and hurt, like never before. I didn't want to make hasty decisions, so I didn't throw the ring in her face or confront the other guy. I don't want to be the one to expose him to his wife or get myself into legal trouble. Besides, it wasn't him who broke our marriage vows. It's my wife. I am at a loss for what to believe anymore. The woman I thought I knew would never do something like this. She's been attempting to persuade me that she acted foolishly and selfishly in expressing her regret for the pain she caused me. She insists on doing whatever it takes to fix the situation, regain my trust, and prove that she is deserving of it. To be honest, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to trust her or see her the same way again. I want to make this work primarily for the benefit of our children and our difficult financial situation. We cannot afford to go through a divorce right now, but I'm afraid that by staying in this situation, I'll lose my sense of self and never regain self-esteem. After that, with enough encouragement, I mustered some self-confidence. I finally realized that there was no way I was ever going to get over what my wife had done. So I told her I wanted to end our marriage. I think she saw it coming because she didn't seem surprised. She made no attempt to change my mind or anything. It sounded like a broken record playing. When I asked her to say something, she kept repeating, "Nothing I say will make any difference." There were many tears, and she even called in sick from work. Since then, we've been informing our closest friends and family about the impending divorce, but she's been extremely hesitant to admit her actions to her parents. My mother is aware of everything, but I agreed not to reveal the truth to my in-laws just yet. Perhaps I am afraid of a confrontation between my soon-to-be ex-wife and myself, so I agreed to give her the opportunity to tell them herself. When we met with them last Sunday, we informed them of the divorce. However, because we had to leave our 2 children with them for 3 days due to a school holiday, it did not seem like the right time to confess about their daughter's multiple affairs. Instead, we informed them that we had unresolved disagreements, which was difficult for me to say because they appeared disappointed. They have been a part of my family for nearly 17 years, and I truly care about them. They've been extremely supportive over the years, both financially and with their love for our children. Lying to them felt terrible, but I'm concerned that if I tell the truth, my soon-to-be ex-wife will become hostile and complicate the divorce process even more. However, my patience has limits. If my wife does not come clean soon, I will have to tell them myself. I also do not want the true reasons for the divorce to become public knowledge. We live in a small community, and I was afraid that the truth would eventually get out, and my children would be teased or bullied as a result. I'd rather keep the truth between our closest friends and family. While the official explanation is that we grew apart and desired different things. I do not want to be known as the poor guy whose wife cheated on him. There are some major tasks that need to be completed. We need to sell our house and find separate apartments for ourselves. We've agreed on a shared custody arrangement in which I'll have the children for 1 week, and their mother will have them the following week. However, I strongly believe that their legal address should be with me so that I do not have to pay her child support. It just wouldn't be fair given what she did. I'm not sure how this will turn out, but in my experience, mothers tend to have the upper hand in these scenarios. People always sympathize with them. Nevertheless, I am determined to fight for my children. The second story. We were married for 6 years, and our marriage was filled with toxicity. We both made mistakes in the early years, but we apologized and resolved to stick together and figure things out. I met her shortly after she returned to our hometown. We worked together briefly, and during that time she was dating a coworker. Unfortunately, she became pregnant by him because she was not careful. She was also struggling with alcohol and pill addiction after having the baby boy. We started dating almost immediately. When the baby turned 3 months old, she moved in with me. I knew deep down that I wanted to be with her and raise a family together. I believed in us. Around the same time, we discovered that our son was autistic and she was expecting our first daughter. It was difficult being young parents with 2 children, but we were determined to make it work. However, our actions and behaviors were not mutually supportive, as is common in toxic relationships. 2 years later, we welcomed another baby girl into our family. She was supposed to use birth control during all of these pregnancies, but she didn't. She lied about many things. 7 years later, we welcomed another baby girl. This time, things were handled differently. She chose to have a home birth, and I was completely involved. I even sat in the bathtub with her. It was a very powerful experience. Despite this, she consistently made questionable decisions. We began to experience problems and felt trapped in a never-ending cycle. She became less affectionate and distant with me. Then something unexpected happened while I was cuddling with her. She dropped a bombshell, claiming she had given too much of herself to me and the kids. I was taken aback and asked her for clarification. She brushed it off as if I'd misheard. But then she dropped another bombshell. She admitted she only loved me as a friend. It shattered me. Internally, I started questioning myself. What did I do wrong? How did a mess happen? I was devastated. She quickly backpedaled and blamed herself, claiming that she needed to fix herself in order to be better for our family. She eventually decided to get prescriptions for antidepressants and anxiety medications. To be honest, she's a mess with a terrible history of relationships, as we discussed. I began by looking inward before observing her actions. They say actions speak louder than words, and I truly believe this, so I made a firm commitment to improving myself and making things better for both of us. I hoped to be a better husband, lover, and father. Little did I know she had reconnected with an old friend from years ago, and they had grown close once more. And yes, you guessed it. This friend was male. He came to visit and even met our children. That's when things got really strange. She was driving and crashed our minivan. I completely wrecked it by rear-ending a Prius. Can you believe it? Rear-ended a Prius and totaled our van. They drove away with no major consequences. The police officer gave her a lucky break and did not issue her a ticket for following too closely. Then about a month later, we got another van and she wrecked it too. Once again, it was her fault. At this point, I became very concerned about her ability to drive safely with our children in the car. Even our 12-year-old daughter was no longer comfortable riding with her. Over time, she was able to reconnect with a daughter from her previous marriage with whom she had lost contact. I am curious how that happened. Okay, here's the story. She was married before me, had a child, and eventually left them. The divorce was finalized, and her ex-husband stipulated some conditions for her to seek help and counseling. But guess what? She did not follow through on that. She started communicating with her child, which led to more frequent conversations with her ex. Emotions resurfaced, and things became very complicated. Meanwhile, I found myself in a difficult situation, trying to support her desire to see her child, whom she hadn't seen in 17 years, while also juggling the responsibilities of caring for our 4 children and dealing with tight finances in order to fund the trip. She launched a GoFundMe campaign, which raised $1,300. My family even contributed an additional $1,000. However, I later discovered that she had failed to follow up on the necessary paperwork to keep our monthly food assistance for approximately 3 months. She let it all go because I believed her when she said everything was fine. However, there was only $2.43 left in that account. I discovered all of this while she was supposed to be visiting her child in another state alone. But it turns out she wasn't alone after all. It turns out she had brought along her new boyfriend, whom I had assumed was just an old friend. And to top it all off, they had been intimate in my own home, on my own bed. How lovely. When she returned from her visit, she surprised me. She stated that she wanted a divorce. I still didn't fully understand what was going on. Then she casually mentioned that she was about to move in with her ex-partner in another state. Wait a minute. How about the kids? So she just left. She abandoned the kids. She left behind all of her belongings. She simply abandoned everything. To make matters worse, she accused me of being a narcissist who emotionally abused her. I know narcissist, but I'll admit that we both had emotional baggage that affected us. Later, I discovered that she dumped the so-called boyfriend when she returned to town. He used the opportunity to reveal all the juicy details of their secret year-long affair, even providing me with incriminating photos. What? Us? He even attempted to blackmail me in order to contact my children. In retrospect, I should have seen it coming when I witnessed. Giving up on contacting her own abandoned child. She now lives in another state with her ex-husband and the child she left behind. We reached a parenting agreement 17 years ago, but I insisted on psychological evaluations. So far, she has only made one attempt to see the kids. In the last 6 months, she hasn't paid any child support. Our children range in age from 17 to 7, so they have a good grasp of what is going on. One of them even commented, "Mom chose her new family over us," and someone questioned why she takes other children to school but not her own. That really stung. So here I am, a single father raising 4 children on my own. I was always the one playing the role of Mr. Mom. I was in charge of getting the kids ready for school, preparing their lunches, and driving them around. And even though I trusted her to handle it, I ended up doing it myself. There were even times when I got them ready and left for work, only to discover later that she had fallen back asleep and the kids were late for class. I couldn't help but wonder if her drinking or the medication she was taking had an effect on her in that way. But to be honest, I believe it is due to her lack of dependability. To make matters worse, she ended up sleeping with all 3 of us in the same house for over a month. Finally, she knowingly exposed me to hepatitis C. She not only abandoned her child 17 years ago, but she repeated the behavior later in life by neglecting the 4 children we have together. I appreciate each and every one of you who listened to the story today. If you liked what you heard, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Additionally, please leave a comment below reflecting on what happened. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have a story to tell about your own or another person's situation. Take care.